Just to alert our sensitive viewers, this episode may contain a bit of coarse language.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christy Blumendahl.
And my name is Rocco, and we are the Disability Tangent Podcast.
Each episode, we talk about current issues affecting communities while supporting people with disabilities.
Through research, community connections, and resource sharing, we hope to invite everybody to challenge their perceptions of people with disabilities and promote a more inclusive world.
Defined by what the people actually want and not what others think they want.
Come join us on this journey. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Disability Tangent Podcast. I'm your host, Rocco, and I'm here with Christy Blumendahl and our wonderful guest today, Stacey Hamm. How's everybody doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on. So just as a starting point, tell us about yourself, who you are, what your preferred pronouns are, what your job title is.
Yeah, so my name is Stacey Hamm. I'm the Public Information Officer and Marketing Manager for Will Rogers World Airport in Oklahoma City. So we are Oklahoma's largest commercial airport. We have every major carrier: American, Delta, Southwest, United, Allegiant, Alaska, that flies in and out of here. We have 25 nonstop destinations that you can fly to, along with some other markets that will take you to major hubs and then beyond that.
Wonderful. And I know one of the ways that we connected, we learned about some of the programs that are going on in the airport right now that you're leading and pushing forward. So can you just tell us a little bit about your journey to understanding the need for access and kind of what sparked some of this interest to keep pushing on this?
Yeah, so we have a lot of new things happening here at Will Rogers. So several years ago, prior to the pandemic, the airport personnel started a airport expansion. COVID hit, and it actually, as much as I hate to say it, COVID was really, in some ways, from a construction standpoint, a blessing for us, because we were actually, if anybody's been involved in construction projects, you know that they never, ever come out on time. This one actually did. With nobody flying during COVID, that gave our construction crews time to come in and work in shifts and get the construction up and going and deliver that project a little bit early, which was wonderful for our passengers. So we expanded the airport terminal. We moved our security checkpoint. We made it larger. We made it more accessible for those that may be in a wheelchair or have other types of disabilities, versus where the checkpoint was located before. It was very tight to get through security. The lines were so long, it impeded the ticket counter. It was just a mess. And with that, we added 4 new gates, which Delta has 3 of those. And then gate 32 is our new international gate that we are currently recruiting. We're in talks with airlines from Mexico right now. So hopefully next year we'll have some international flights to Mexico. And then beyond that, we can provide more. So with that, we had a lot of conversations around the new build. We added a mother's room in the new area. Right as you come out of security checkpoint, there's a very nice nursing room for moms. Or if you just have little kids and you just need that extra break once you got through your ticket counter, the security checkpoint with little ones, you can just go into that room and have some quiet time and get yourself put back together before you head on to your gate or onto your plane. So that's a new addition that we added there. It's much larger. There's a really nice recliner in there for moms that are nursing. There is a toilet. There is a sink. basically everything that you need, and it's a nice quiet space. It is located next to the men and women's restroom, so it's very convenient, and it's right there. Like, you can't miss it. And then as you head back west on our concourse, you're heading back into what we call the old terminal. And there's the center concourse. We actually added a adult changing room, and that's for families who have a child with any type of disability who may need, again, their own space to take care of them, to change any if they're in diapers, no matter what their age. There's a table in there that's a sanitary table. It's stainless steel. It's heavy enough to hold up to an adult person, which is why we call it an adult changing room. Again, quiet space. You can enter that space from both the men and the women's restroom. So you'll just need to make sure that when you go in and you do utilize it, that you lock both doors on each end from the men and women's restroom area there. And it does say, once you lock it, it does say that it's occupied. So it lets people on the outside know that it is currently in use. So that space is available. We are looking at adding a sink to it at this point. We don't have a sink in there just yet, but we are working towards getting one. That will be, I believe, part of our renovations on all of our restrooms on the concourse and ticket counter level that we're getting ready to initiate, to make them larger, and again, to help with the accessibility and to bring them up to the current ADA standards for all of our restrooms. So that's a new project that's going to start taking place probably the end of this year, maybe January of 2025. And that'll be a big project because all of the restrooms throughout the airport will get those upgrades. And then as we kind of gone through and evaluated that, we have changed out a lot of our seating in our gate areas with our airlines. So there are more accessible seats there now. They're more comfortable for everyone than what we had before. So those are updated as well. And then we started adding some programs. We found the Hidden Disability Sunflower program that we thought was honestly just really cool, and it's needed for pretty much anyone who has a hidden disability. And people ask, what is a hidden disability? And you would be surprised as to what really those are. And people don't understand that if you have a family member or you yourself may have epilepsy, nobody knows that except for you and or people who are traveling with you, whether it's family or friends. At any given time, depending on where you're at with epilepsy, and if you're maybe in a transition of medication, something could trigger that and set it off and for you to have a seizure. And if you have a loved one who's had a seizure in a public place, it's very scary. Sorry, I get emotional talking about it because my brother has epilepsy.
Totally understand.
No.
Yeah, it's so this lanyard really is voluntary. So anybody who has a hidden disability can walk up to our information booths that are located in baggage claim and on our ticket counter level. And you can ask for it's called a sunflower lanyard. And the lanyards are green with sunflowers on them. And you can just wear the lanyard by itself, or you can ask for the card that you can attach to the lanyard. Now, the card is something that you as the individual will fill out. And so that way, if you don't want to verbally, when you're walking up to the ticket counter or TSA, a security checkpoint area, or even any of our restaurants or retail spaces, if you don't want to verbalize, say, hey, I have a hearing impairment, I have a visual impairment, or I may just have migraines and they can come on suddenly with certain types of lighting or noise or whatever, it's written there on the card. And so our airport staff can see that they recognize what the lanyard means. And they can ask you questions. They can say, hey, I see that you have a sunflower lanyard. Is there anything that I can help you with right now? Do you need any extra help? Do you need any extra time here at the ticket counter or going through the security checkpoint? That's what the lanyard is there to do. And it's a big awareness tool to let our staff know that, hey, this person needs some understanding. Don't get frustrated. Don't try to rush them through because of whatever. And again, they don't have to have the card. As long as they have the lanyard on, that lets our staff know to take a little bit more time and be a little bit more compassionate with our passengers. Same thing on the flights. All of the airlines flight attendants will also see that and know what that represents.
That's really lovely. I appreciate that so much, that you don't need to disclose anything if you don't want to disclose anything, but yet just wearing the lanyard itself is giving a sort of visual cue to say there's something going on here that may need more attention. And so I really appreciate that. So it's not like you have to be waving and yelling and be like, hey, I have a disability. But also, you are being able to say, I have a disability and there's something that I want you to pay attention to, and I might need a little extra help. I really liked the way that you said that they frame it as well, to say that they're trained to ask, do you need extra help? Do you need extra time? Because that was one question I had, is how do you train them then to assist? Because I'm sure there's a wide range of ways that people need assistance, because there's such a wide range of non-apparent disabilities. So is there, maybe the question to ask is, for travelers that don't know or aren't familiar with this program, like what accommodations would there be for them if they come through and they say, do you need extra help? Do you need extra time? Like what is it okay to ask for under those circumstances? How can we respond?
So I think it varies. Of course, if you have issues with hearing or even visual, your eyesight, finding somebody at the ticket counter, because there's a lot of people out there who speak very softly, and even I have a hard time hearing them. I have to lean in. So maybe asking for somebody whose voice that you will be able to hear better, or maybe if somebody at the ticket counter says, hey, they have a hearing impediment and I know that I speak softly, so let me go and find somebody who has maybe either higher pitch or just a louder voice to where they can hear and understand. There's hidden disabilities out there that are cognitive, and some people need that little extra step in explaining, especially when it comes to processes. So taking that extra time and going step by step and explaining to them exactly what they need to do or how they need to do it, versus just automatically assuming everybody should know that you need to do this when you go through the security checkpoint. And that's not always the case. And again, those cognitive kind of disabilities, you don't know unless somebody says something. This program puts a lot on the individual. Again, it is voluntary, and it's not like you're going to walk up to an airline ticket counter and the ticket agent is going to ask you, do you have a hidden disability? And if so, let me give you a lanyard. That's not how the program works. It is you as the individual walking up and saying, hey, and all you have to say is, I have a hidden disability. And even if you don't want to wear the lanyard, you don't have to. It's just by acknowledging and letting them know that this is what I have. And so can you help me? Can you take a little extra time? And again, the staff are there. They've been through the training with hidden disabilities. All of our airport staff has, and stuff, to know that, yes, I completely understand. Let me help you and make any extra accommodations that I can.
Beautiful.
I really like that, because then it's not just about the signal essentially to say that's the case. It seems like even beyond the lanyard, you're training your staff, and the airport's training their staff in general to be like, this person's telling you, hey, I need a couple extra minutes. Give me
Right.
some time. Let me explain that. And I think creating that environment is so powerful and successful for people.
Yeah, because we live in a world where everyone's just like, "Yeah, let's just rush through this, get it done. You should already know." And that's just really not the case. Not everybody is even aware of their own surroundings sometimes. So I think this program really helps, again, our staff to help in that customer service area and to be more aware of what's going on, not only what's around them at that time, but just around in the airport in general. Because we have over 8,000 people that just alone every single day travel out of our airport. That doesn't account for the numbers of people that are flying in throughout the
Wow.
day as well. So we talk to and we see a lot of people on a daily basis.
That is amazing. And I mean, that's an incredible amount of people to try to navigate. And with that large a sampling of individuals, I'm sure there's a wide range of supports
Yes.
that are needed, and personality types to help support, and that.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And as our airport grows, we're always looking for programs like this. We
Mhm.
do have our wheelchair program that if you do need wheelchair assistance when you are booking your airline ticket, that is something that you need to request at that time with your airline. That way it's reserved, because every airline has a limited number of wheelchairs to begin with. But that is there when you pull up to, if you have an individual dropping you off and you pull up to the curb, you'll, if they have curbside assistance, not all of our airlines do, but some of them do, you can let the person outside know that you have reserved a wheelchair, and or you run into the, have somebody go into the ticket counter real quick, and then they'll bring the wheelchair out to you and they take it from there. We are looking into, you would call them people movers, but they come in all different. Some airports have golf carts, some airports
Mm.
have these longer train. They look like little tram where,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
systems that hop on. So we're looking at doing something like that in the future as well. We're doing extensive research right now to see what our options are, because we are working on a master plan to continue to expand the airport in the next 10 years. People keep flying, which is great. And the more people that fly in and out of Oklahoma City, the more that we need to grow and make that customer experience just better.
And I think that's a wonderful opportunity, especially as the airport expands, where you can start from scratch. You're
Mhm.
not trying to. I know we've talked in the past about taking an existing space, and sometimes the challenges associated with that, where
Yeah,
I would love to make this bigger, but this is the same doorway that's been here for 20 years, and there's a structural thing here, so we can't
right.
really do anything about that. Where, when you talk about some of these considerations that you are looking into for various individuals that have a variety of needs, how do you find that information out? Is there like a survey, or is this focus groups where you see people interacting with individuals with various disabilities, and like how did they work through that? But where do you get some of that information?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually have ADA standards that we have to meet according to the FAA. Every airport, and they update those standards on a regular basis. A lot of your airports are part several association groups. So we attend trainings from the FAA that are specific on aid. We attend conferences. And so just talking to our fellow peers at other airports and finding out what they're doing. The Hidden Disability Sunflower Program is fairly new. So not a lot of airports have it right now. So it's continuing to grow. So we're pretty excited that we're early in this process. So it's something that we're able to share with our peers at other airports as well and let them know. We also conduct customer surveys every quarter. So we do ask questions related to their experience here. Is there anything that you would like to see? Anything that you would like to change? That sort of thing. So we take the feedback from those as well. Yeah, it's a lot of research, a lot of just talking to other people. Hey, what are you doing? Our customers email us on a regular basis. We find out about some things through them, and then researching that a little bit more to see if it's something that we can initiate here in our airport.
Lovely. I think maybe a couple of questions arise from that. And one of them would be regarding the ADA and FAA standards. I know that they update those regularly, and I know that there are some pushes from people, especially people who use wheelchairs, to push those standards forward, because there are still a lot of things happening where it's challenging to use a wheelchair and fly. That's just, there's a lot. And do you see those standards moving quickly enough on your end as someone who's running the airport versus people who are running the airlines? Do you feel like there are things that people can do as wheelchair users to keep moving that process forward? Like, how can we best utilize our voices to keep pressure on in order to get our needs met? Because it still is a lot of damaged chairs, a lot of difficulty transferring, things that make travel very difficult. Like, how would you say we could best use our voice and our power to keep moving that discussion forward from your perspective?
Yeah, and I think in some ways it is challenging for the individuals because of how the industry works.
Okay.
So uh, I'll try to explain it here. So everybody, I keep telling everyone the airport is a
Yeah.
building. And we have inside our building, we have tenants, and those tenants are the airlines. There are TSA and even FAA to a certain extent is a tenant of ours. All of our retail and restaurants, those are tenants of ours. So as a building, as an airport, there are certain things that the FAA basically comes out with standards that we have to follow. Then you have your tenants that, depending on who the tenant is, what direction they go in. So a lot of our retail, our restaurants, they will say, okay, the airport says that they have to do this from an ADA standpoint, so we're going to follow that ADA rule. Your airlines are slightly different. So with that said, with the wheelchairs being really 100% managed by each airline, every airline operates differently. So your challenge there as an individual is really getting a hold of the airline from that type of service. Now, with that said, we are looking at people movers in the future, trying to help better the wheelchair service that we currently have. It's not to replace it. That wheelchair service, some of our airlines have upgraded their wheelchairs to have the larger seats in them, to have more staff to come and help, because there are times where I don't know how they do it, but I've seen an individual who's trying to get 3 people in a wheelchair by themselves through TSA and to the gate. So I think that's where our people movers can help with that. If they could get them through the security checkpoint TSA area and then onto a people mover, and then we can transport them down to the gate, so on and so forth. So we're still trying to work all of that out. What does that look like? How much is that going to cost? Really how it's all going to work together and with our
Yeah.
partners as
But
well.
that definitely lessens the strain, and then it frees up resources in some different ways and makes it more accessible for more people. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the questions I had jumping off of that is, as you're thinking of one, I really appreciate the talking about kind of the difference between like the building and the tenants, and sometimes there's discrepancies between that, which in any situation like that, I imagine there is. What can you talk a little bit about the staff training process for something like that? Because I know that the airport has staff on their own, and then each of the tenants have their own staff as well. But how do you navigate those situations to carry out some of these initiatives?
Yeah, so initially, as a staff person of the airport, whether you're hired by the Department of Airports or you're hired by one of our tenants, i.e., an airline, retail concessions, everybody has to go through a badging process in order to access certain areas of the airport. And so during that time, there are required training that everybody has to have. And a lot of that is on safety around the airport. A lot of it has to do with your badge itself on how you can utilize it and where to utilize it. And then we've incorporated training such as this, the hidden disabilities training. It's a short training for them to initially go through. But then once a month, we meet with our stakeholders and then we do training there as well. So everybody comes together once a month inside a very large conference room, and Department of Airport staff, we go through and we give them updates on, hey, here's what we're working on, here's what we're doing. Any concerns, questions, and then we take that opportunity to go more in depth with some of our training, such as the Hidden Disabilities program. And then we leave it up to the tenants to take it from there on if they want to do any above and beyond training outside of that. I will say, though, what we have started to do is, so I'll do check-ins with our airlines and with our information booth. I'll just randomly stop by and talk to the staff there and ask them questions about the program and see what type of feedback they're receiving from customers as well. So I will say it's been a slow start here at the airport because it's getting that word out to our passengers and keeping it out there and keeping them educated, because it's a voluntary type of program. So the more people we can reach to say, hey, make sure that you ask for this if you need it. It's here and it's here for you, and we want you to ask for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because how do customers coming in know about that program just in general? Is there like a flyer or a poster or something along those lines?
Yeah, so right now at our information booths, we have these really tall roll-up banners that have information about the Sunflower program. Our information booth is really where a lot of the info and details that you can go and ask questions, where you can actually take the time to talk to our volunteers about it if you have any questions regarding the program. I have to get some more promotional materials. We ordered window clings, but they weren't actually window clings. So I'm looking at trying to get some different items that we can get up around the airport as well to let people know. And then through social media, if you follow our Will Rogers World Airport Facebook page, or if you follow us on X, you'll see posts that we will make just to keep it out there in the public eye as well. So please feel free. If you don't need to utilize the program, I completely understand, but please share it. Whatever information we put out there to others that you may know might be interested.
Are you passionate about accessibility and inclusion, but don't know who to connect with? We welcome you to join the Global Accessibility and Inclusion Network, founded by the creators of the Disability Tangent podcast.
Our mission is simple: to connect communities to available resources and create a supportive network of individuals from all backgrounds. Join us as we unite disability advocates from around the world to share knowledge, collaborate on initiatives, and drive positive change.
Whether you're an experienced activist or just starting your journey, there's a place for you in our network. To learn more and become part of this powerful movement, check out the show notes for this episode and sign up today.
Together, let's make the world a more accessible and inclusive place for everyone.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So one thing I wanted to ask along those lines is, you had said that you are early adopters for the program. I know, especially in the United States, I know of more people in the UK that use it currently, but in fact, like I had gone on and looked at one point what airports are listed in the US, and I was surprised that some of the major airports aren't actually using it. Some of the smaller airports in my area are. So what would you say to airports about adopting this program? What are the benefits to the airport? Why do you think it's important? Yeah. What would be your sort of
Yeah.
pitch to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a huge benefit all the way around for individuals, for airport staff, and our passengers. The number one thing takeaway is slow down, take time to ask questions, and just be more compassionate with people and understanding. That's the whole gist of the program. Traveling is stressful in itself, especially if you are a parent who has a child with any sort of disability, whether it be physical or mental or behavioral, it's whatever. Those are the people who need the help. Because they're just so all the time, just go, 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 just trying to, and it may just be the mom or the dad that needs the help themselves versus the family member. And that's what it's all about. Just take a step back. You'll get everybody through. And that's what we've told our airlines and our concessionaires is that I get it. People are rushing. They're late for their flights. But that doesn't mean that you need to rush them through and have a bad day and a bad attitude about it either. You can still take a little extra time and still get them to where they need to be respectfully. And that's what I tell them. And I know with larger airports, it may be overwhelming maybe because they are so large and they have way more people that go in and out of our airport, but I still think it can be utilized in the right way with them.
I feel like that messaging and that almost as an audio can apply not just at airports but in education systems
everywhere.
Right,
yeah
too. Yeah. Even the last couple episodes we had when we had some of our artistic researchers on it, a very similar sentiment was there of being able to slow down and give the person kind of the space and range to be able to behave in the way that they do, and taking that person as is. In line with that, some of the training aspects that we have, and when you're trying to teach people these things, what does that training generally look like? I know you said that the Lanyard program kind of has a little training component to it. Is there like a trauma-informed care piece? Are you looking at specific diagnoses? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
We don't. If you go to the Hidden Disabilities website, like I said, there are so many what they call hidden disabilities out there. And honestly, even I was looking through it going, wow, I didn't really realize that. So it's educating our staff on, hey, if I didn't recognize this or realize it, I know you guys aren't either. So just be aware that here is what it is. And we go through those things again. We go through the initial training. And then, of course, we ask the questions. It's an open dialogue. What have you guys run into? How are our passengers, are they receptive? Are they not receptive? And a lot of them themselves are saying, some of our passengers just don't quite understand the program, which is understandable because, again, it's so new for our area. And it's my job to partner with organizations such as yourself to help educate the public, to say, here's what this is. Please utilize it. Go to the Hidden Disability Sunflower Program website. They've got tons of information out there, and they list all of the hidden disabilities and what they mean. There's some disabilities out there that people are like, I don't even know what that is. And they'll explain to you what it is. We talk through those. We don't really talk about what the passengers are, what type of disability that they're saying that they're having, because honestly, to us, it doesn't matter. We have a lot of older people, again, that have a hard time walking or whatever. And honestly, that's a hidden disability. Sometimes it's visual, but sometimes it's not. So Yeah, it's just a lot of talking through certain scenarios. How did you react to this person? How did you help them? That sort of thing.
Yeah. One question that came up for me around that, and it's just a really it's an interesting scenario, and maybe you haven't seen it play out at all, but there's been this a little bit of a phenomenon sort of at like the Disney parks where people realized if you got a disabled pass, you could skip the line. And now they're having to prove, in some sense, that their child needs a disabled pass because people were wanting to skip the line without having the
Mhm.
verification of skipping the line. And so I wonder if there will be any pushback with people saying, oh, why do you get to have extra time? Why do you get to go through this line and not that line? Or why do you get help and I don't get help? And I find that's a thing that comes up in certain spaces, certain times, because for me, I do have non apparent disabilities. I've recently
Mhm.
become a wheelchair user, which makes it a lot harder for people to make those judgments because I'm rolling around in a chair. But before that, it was very easy for people to discount when I said I need a seat. It was like, no, you don't look like you need a seat. And have you come across any of those kind of situations, and are people being trained in that situation as well to just explain this person has something hidden. It's not really your business. Like, stay in
Right.
your lane. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is really hard for people to do
Yeah.
sometimes. Um, yes. So we do, when we rolled this out, we did, because that was TSA's concern. They're like, people are going to abuse it. And we're like, yes, we understand, which is why, again, as airport staff, we don't ask the individual. They have to come and ask you. So if they're educated and they're aware of the program and they know what it's there for and what it's meant to be there for, they will utilize it correctly.
Yeah.
So no, it's not a fast pass. It doesn't get you through just because you have a lanyard on. It doesn't trigger anybody at the security checkpoint area to pull you to the front of the line. That's not what that is there for. You do have to wait in line like everybody else. If you're in a wheelchair line, there is a wheelchair line specifically for you. But what it does mean is when you do get up there and you have to take your shoes off, and when you go through that extra process, it just, if they need to take you aside and take you through another separate lane, whether it be the wheelchair lane because nobody's there, and that helps to get them out of the chaos of everybody else around them, then that's what they do. But they're not going to pull you out of line and say, hey, come to the front. But yes, they may say, hey, why don't you come over here and we'll process you through this line because it's moving faster, or your line's whatever. That is up to TSA to make that call.
Yep.
But again, it's not, and they may do it if you don't have a lanyard on. It just depends. If they see that it's getting a little chaotic there in the security checkpoint area and people are getting antsy and you've got one line moving faster than the other, they may say, hey, why don't you come over here? Again, that's up to TSA on how they operate in their section. The airlines and retail and stuff, that's a little bit different from a customer service standpoint. They have staff, they have enough staff there at the ticket counters and in the restaurants and retail shops that if you need that one-on-one help, that there is somebody there to provide that for you. We try to, when we worked with Parady's Logadier, who is our concessionaire on the retail and restaurant spaces that we have that are fairly new, we took into consideration individuals with wheelchairs, those who may have walking canes or other type of walking apparatuses to get in and out of tables and around certain displays in our retail shops as well. Even then, if there's a tight space, they're there to help you navigate through that. But no, we haven't seen anybody take advantage of it yet. But again, our program's very new. My hope is that those who do need it understand what it's there for and they respect it, our staff respects it, and everything will work out the way that it's supposed
Yeah.
to.
And I'm always a firm believer, even if one or two people do take unfair advantage, it's still helping a huge number of people who do need it. And so it's worth it. Yeah.
Right.
I feel like even by providing some of those supports and teaching the staff to read some of those situations, hey, the line's not moving, what's going on? There's like procedural things that are in helping individuals through this in a different way, or pulling aside to give that person a little bit more space. It's also creating a little bit better flow anyway for everybody else. So
Right.
everybody's like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Everybody's moving through. We're doing it.
Yeah. And I don't know if a lot of people know this as well, but TSA has their own program, and it's called TSA Cares. If you don't really want to utilize the lanyards, you don't need that extra help maybe at the ticket counter or anywhere else within the airport except for TSA, you can always go to their website and look for their TSA Cares program. And if you call them, I believe there's a 1-800 number on their website. You call them, you give them your flight information and obviously what airport you're flying in and out of. And when you get there, you call that number again, and they will have a TSA agent come and meet you. And again, it's that special one-on-one time that they will help you navigate their process. So that is specifically related to TSA, and it is out there for any individuals who may need that extra help for whatever reason. So they can find out more information at TSA's website, so tsa.com.
And we'll definitely put that in the show notes below as well for those that are listening to this right now. So that's amazing. And is for that TSA Cares program, is that something that, as far as you know, was done in response to or in line with some of the FAA regulations?
They've had that program for quite some time, so I would probably say yes. It's just not, I don't think it's widely known out there, so it is something that our TSA here is trying to get the word out about. Yeah, I believe, and it has a lot to do with their customer service as well, too.
That's fantastic. And along with some of those other programs that are not airport specific that you're looking through or trying to push those initiatives, what other kinds of either like initiatives or policies that you see that are working in the benefit of individuals with disabilities? And then on a flip side, are you seeing anything where you're like, maybe there could be a better thing that the FAA could push out as well? So a two-sided coin with that.
Yeah, so the ADA standards and policies that are out there, we are required as the city and of course the FAA that we meet those standards, and it's the AAA standards. I know that we're getting ready to, well, actually we are right now. We're in the process of redesigning our website. And they've added some new stuff for websites for accessibility. That our current website right now does not meet. So I'm working with our vendor who's redeveloping that site to make sure that those website standards are incorporated into this new site, and trying to figure out how we're going to be able to manage that as we add new content and stuff moving forward. So we're working on, even internally, our own policies and procedures as it relates to what information goes on that website and how accessible does it need to be. It's ever evolving, ever changing. So really, as an airport, as a department, we rely on the FAA to come in and say, okay, here's an update, or here's a whole new thing that you guys have to start incorporating. We are in constant contact with the FAA all the time. We get that information, and our team, our legal team, everybody's on top of it. So we start incorporating as quickly as we can.
It's nice to see such a big system do that consistently, because we've definitely interviewed folks before, and just like our own personal contacts where that time between here's this new policy and regulation that's for the benefit of people with disabilities, and that latency, that time in between is very big. So I'm very appreciative that there's people like you and teams that supporting that are actually like, hey folks, maybe we should do this a little bit faster and get this going.
Yeah. Yeah, because I will say prior to any upgrades and stuff here, which is why a lot of our restrooms we're going back now and we're updating and renovating all of our restrooms, is because they did meet ADA requirements back when it was built, but they have changed over time. So now it's time to meet those current requirements. So you'll see a big difference in our restrooms, I think, once it's all complete.
Yeah, and little things like that, they seem like little things. They seem like little things when you're not reliant on it or dependent on it. But like I know a
Right.
person who only receives sustenance through a feeding port. And so if that is your situation and there's not a sink in the
Right.
disabled bathroom space, then how are you supposed to clean off and put your food into your chest in a safe way? So there are
Right.
things like that people would be like, why do you need a sink in the disabled bathroom stall? There's a reason. There are little things
Right.
that become big things when you are in a situation where you have a disability and that affects your everyday life in really big
Right.
ways. Yeah, I appreciate that you understand that and that you seem to really be working hard toward creating a space that is functional for people and that is fair and equitable for more people and that just allows people to step outside of chaos and have a moment of calm in all
Right.
sorts of ways. The adult changing station is a huge one for me. I know so many people who are reliant on a parent or a spouse or a partner to take care of some of those needs, and if there's not a space that is available to them, it can make things so much more challenging. So it's
Mhm.
such an important thing for people to be recognizing and be making those things functional and available everywhere. So I really appreciate that you are stepping out in these ways and making these changes and making the world much more accessible for so many more people. So
Yeah, and along some of those lines, to the degree that you feel comfortable sharing, when you envision the future on what a perfect situation would be like from perhaps a staff training standpoint, a built space standpoint, maybe even just like perceptions of people in general, like what would your ideal airport look like? It seems like you're starting to create one, which is awesome, but like what are those next 15 steps that you're envisioning as you're doing this kind of work?
Yeah, wow.
Sorry, that was a big question.
That is a big question. Gosh, what would the ideal airport look like? Honestly, I don't know. That one's really hard because there's a running joke in our industry is that once you've been in one airport, you've been in one airport because they are all different.
yeah,
There's so much out there that we all can incorporate to make the user experience so much better for everyone. But it all comes down to funding and costs. And we feel like we're living under constant construction right now as employees here at the airport. I can only imagine our passengers. So if you think about that, your ideal airport, I don't know if one actually exists because it would be constantly under construction because I think that it's a great question. It's something that we're constantly trying to evolve and think of new ideas. Can we realistically do this now? Is it something that we have to really budget for in the next 10, 15, 20 years? And then we talk about, gosh, cost wise, if it's going to be 15, 20 years down the road, is it even going to be relevant at that time? We have a lot of those discussions that go on here within our department on a regular basis. So we're trying to find everything that we can, like I said, to make the user experience great for everyone, whether you have a disability or you don't have a disability. Signage is huge for everyone. So we're constantly trying to work on new signage, keep that updated and fresh so it doesn't get stale and people ignore it. We want to make sure that it's done in Braille, and it's those for who may not be 100% blind that need Braille but can still visually see it for whatever other visual impairments they may have. So it's just ever evolving as time goes on. So if we lived in a perfect world, but unfortunately, I don't think our world is as perfect as what we would all like it to be. But we try. And I think for us as employees, that's important to us. And we just want to let our passengers know that we hear you, we see you. There are some things that frustrate us as well that we wish that we could just have right now, but we're working on it.
I think that's such a good point about, and thank you for fielding that incredibly interesting component there. So I really appreciate the approach to that of flexibility, but also your point of, yes, we can adjust, like we can start doing something right now, but then by the time it's done, it might not even be relevant. And sometimes I feel that way sometimes in the research field as well. By the time you see an article, it's already 2 or 3 years old because what was done has been done already. So the cutting edge things are already obsolete in some ways or dated. And so a long time to do things like that could present a lot of unique challenges.
Yeah. It's never enough, and it's never fast enough, and it's always evolving. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and another like general question I had, I don't know if this one will be as good as the other one. But we talk about it, and you've mentioned many different disability presentations between deaf and hard of hearing, visual impairments, cognitive learning, physicality, a lot of considerations here. When you're using kind of the language around that, and even things like, is this like identity first or person first? Or if you're writing your reports, how do you navigate language use when you're talking about disability? Because I know you've said how important it is to be inclusive and making sure that the signage and the way people are more inclusive. But how do you navigate those situations and make sure that everybody's on the same page as much as possible?
Yeah, so a lot of the airport signage, they're standards when it comes to how you put information out there on your wayfinding signs. It makes sense because if you're a constant traveler and you go from airport to airport, it's one of those that you see the sign all the time and you're like, oh yeah, it's the same as the other airport. So you really start to get into that rhythm and understand where things are and stuff like that, because the verbiage is the same across all airports. The icons that we use are standards across all airports. Now on websites, it's different. One of the things that we are incorporating into our new website is to make sure that the icons that you see on our wayfinding signs, on airport road, airport property, as you're driving up for parking, all the way into the terminal to your gate, we are using those same icons on our website. Again, it's not confusing. It represents the same thing on our website that you're seeing in the actual airport. And some of the other verbiage, it goes back to those discussions. What's appropriate, what's not appropriate. We always reference our ADA standards. We have an individual here who is well educated in the ADA standards. So utilizing her expertise of saying, hey, can you read this and make sure that it's working with a whole lot of different ways of seeing things and how it's done, and trying to incorporate it all to make sure it fits. So it's a lot of work, but
So much
It
work.
sounds like a lot of work. I know, when you, at the beginning of this, before we even started recording, you were like, oh, I'm busy. Now I'm like, oh, no, you're busy. Really busy. There's so much stuff. Oh, I really appreciate all the work that you are doing. This seems really great. We talk about sometimes that things can get heavy in these discussions, because we often talk about the things that are going wrong and the things that are weighing on us, the things that are challenging for us as people with disabilities, and seeing systems that are not working. So it's so refreshing and so nice to just sit down and have a discussion about, here are some things that are just going well, that someone is working on and doing some stuff about. It just feels really nice to look at some solutions, to say, these are things that are happening, these are some positive things, and people can like grab hold of and work with and just feel good about. So I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing. And then I think the one of the last things before we wrap up is, how can people reach out if they want more information, or if they want to get in touch and give any feedback, or if they want to travel on through your airport? How can they connect?
Yeah. So they could actually visit flyokc.com. That is our website. So we should roll out the new look and content and stuff in late fall. But we do have information about hidden disabilities. We have a link to their website on our website as well, so they can dive deeper into that. And so as you're coming through our airport, just remember that you can pick up your lanyard at any one of our information booths, which are located in baggage claim and on the ticket counter level. You can also ask any one of the airlines for a hidden disability lanyard, or if you happen to forget when you're on the secure or the non-secure side, and you make it through TSA and you're on the secure side, you can always go to one of the restaurants in our retail shops and ask for a lanyard at that time as well. If you have a lanyard that you've picked up at another airport, feel free to wear it to our airport or through our airport if you're flying through and coming in and visiting. Those two, they may be white with green and yellow. Ours is green with yellow sunflowers on it, but everybody knows that if it has a sunflower on it, it's a hidden disability sunflower lanyard. So it doesn't matter if it's a white background or a green background.
Wonderful.
And they can always reach out to me as well. My email is on flyokc.com. Our general email for the airport is also located under the contact us section. So they can email me directly, or they can email that email address because it comes to me anyways. That's a general email box that we check multiple times throughout the day and respond back to.
Perfect. We say in unison, almost. So close.
We're almost there. So yeah, and is there any other things that you want to leave at the end of this episode here, and any other thoughts or feels that you want the listeners to know?
No, just again, be patient, especially as you're traveling. Make sure that you're not late. That's the big thing when you're flying out. I know we tell people to arrive 2 hours before you leave for your flight, but it's really, that's the best thing to do, is to be here 2 hours. There will be times that you'll get through within 30 minutes tops, but then there'll be other times that it'll take you the full 2 hours. You just never know. Mm-hmm. So
words to live by. I'm going to be doing
I
that.
was going to say, did you hear that, Rocco? Be on time, Rocco.
Christy, I'm always on time.
Yeah,
right?
no, he's never late. He's always perfectly.
I arrive precisely.
Yeah, you're a wizard. Yeah.
Wonderful. Stacey, thank you so much today for talking through this and sharing a lot of the resources. And we'll have a lot of the links that you mentioned throughout. I'm taking a few notes, and they'll show up in the show notes below for those listening. But seriously, Stacey, this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm glad that y'all reached out. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Rocco. I appreciate it. You guys again.
Thank you so much, Stacey.
Of course. Thank you.
Next time, we are excited to welcome Susanna Weiss, writer and sexologist. That's right, folks. We are talking about sex. and how it intersects with neurodiversity. Susanna is the author of Subjectified, Becoming a Sexual Subject. She also works as a sex educator, a sex and love coach, a birth doula, and a sexual assault counselor. We sat down for an amazing, candid conversation with her that is filled with so much wisdom.
That one I've gotten a lot. You need to relax. You need to trust me. Don't you trust me? You think too much. Like that, those are things people say to gaslight you. If someone says you think too much, often it's because they benefit from you not thinking. Like, don't let someone tell you that you are wrong to not trust someone right away.
Be sure to join us next time and hear so much more about Susanna's life and experience while learning from her amazing expertise. You do not want to miss it.
As hosts of the Disability Tangent podcast, we love hearing from our listeners. Your thoughts, feedback, and questions are what keep our podcast going and growing.
So if you've been inspired, moved, or even challenged by anything you've heard on our show, we want to hear from you. Share your stories, your insights, and your questions with us by emailing disabilitytangent@gmail.com.
Whether you're sharing a personal story, suggesting a topic for a future episode, or simply want to say hello, we're here and ready to listen.
So don't be shy. Drop us an email at disabilitytangent@gmail.com and let's keep the conversation going. Your voice matters, and we can't wait to hear from you.
That's all for today, folks. Until next time, remember to stay engaged, stay curious, and above all, stay connected. Thank you for listening. What's our email again?
disabilitytangent@gmail.com. Oh my gosh.